What came out today? Today, the Romney campaign is out with this new ad accusing Obama of lying about Romney's role at Bain.
When a president doesn't tell the truth, how can we trust him to lead? The Obama outsourcing attacks, misleading, unfair, and untrue. There was no evidence that Mitt Romney shipped jobs overseas. Candidate Obama lied about Hillary Clinton.
So shame on you, Barack Obama.
But America expects more from a president. Obama's dishonest campaign, another reason America has lost confidence in Barack Obama.
Howard Fineman, I'm tempted to say that would have been an effective ad a week ago.
Yeah, I think you're right, Michael. I think the Romney campaign, which was so good on offense during the primary season, hasn't shown itself to be quick off the mark in terms of defense. The Obama campaign attacked. There are questions about exactly what definitions you want to use of outsourcing and offshoring. There are definitions or questions of definitions about time, the timeline, and so on. But the basic attack was well known, and I think in its heart had a lot to it. The Romney campaign at first dismissed it. They tried to brush it off. They tried to make fun of it. They tried to counterattack by saying the president sent money overseas during the stimulus package. But it's only today, more than a week later, that they're trying to react to a story that they originally sent their staff down to the Washington Post to complain about. That was more than a week ago.
Joan, NBC's First Read had this response to the new Romney ad, quote, "Perhaps the biggest problem for Team Romney is that this response ad comes more than a week after the Obama camp released its Bain outsourcing ad. That's not quite rapid response." Also today, the New York Times reported on the disappointment among some Romney supporters, quote, "Mitt Romney and his team of advisors built a reputation during the Republican primaries as tough street fighters skilled in the tactics of political warfare, but now Mr. Romney finds himself confronting concern that he is not nimble and aggressive enough to withstand the Democratic assault against him." And then yesterday on Fox News, Mitt Romney was asked about his slow response and said this.
I, of course, respond to the attacks that come, but you know, they say in politics, if you're responding, you're losing.
The part that surprises me, Joan Walsh, is that this was all predictable. I mean, Newt Gingrich, he was slapped down in Republican quarters for doing so, but he pursued these Bain issues. Surely the Romney campaign knew we'd get to this juncture.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, Michael, except this outsourcing, offshoring stuff is a little bit new, and they seem to be surprised by that. But they've created their own troubles in their response, because it seems to me that first they tried to say, well, they want to kind of defend what he's done. Then they want to say, well, he was gone when the outsourcing occurred, and that is what has opened the door to this big debate now about exactly when did he leave. Did he leave in '99? Did he leave in 2000, 2001? We've got multiple sets of disclosure forms now that each tell a different story, one to the SEC that could be damaging about exactly when he stepped down as CEO. So it's sort of like in their original defense, they created this new set of questions about the precise timeline of his departure. So they really are bumbling and bungling this story from start to finish.
Here's, Joan, what you're referring to, a report in this morning's Boston Globe about exactly when Romney left Bain. It's been getting a lot of attention. It follows reporting from David Corn, as a matter of fact, in Mother Jones, that suggests Romney was still involved there until 2002, 3 years after he says he left, during a period when the firm invested in companies that specialized in outsourcing. Quote, "Government documents filed by Mitt Romney and Bain Capital say Romney remained chief executive and chairman of the firm 3 years beyond the date that he said he ceded control, even creating 5 new investment partnerships during that time. Public Securities and Exchange Commission documents filed later by Bain Capital state that he remained the firm's sole stockholder, chairman of the board, chief executive officer, and president." The Romney campaign said the article is inaccurate. They say Romney was still the owner, technically, but he wasn't involved in any investment decisions. And not surprisingly, however, the Obama campaign was quick to jump on the story. In a call with reporters, senior advisor Stephanie Cutter leveled a strong charge against Romney. Let's listen to that.
Either Mitt Romney, through his own words and his own signature, was misrepresenting his position at Bain to the SEC, which is a felony, or he was misrepresenting his position at Bain to the American people to avoid responsibility for some of the consequences of his investments. And if that's the case, if he was lying to the American people, then that's a real character and trust issue that the American people need to take very seriously.
Pretty strong words. Romney campaign manager Matt Rhodes called Cutter's statement reckless and unsubstantiated and accused the Obama camp of hitting a new low. He called on the president to apologize. Howard, as I said at the outset, it gets confusing. I think this is the big picture. The president got a disappointing jobs number recently, and yet it seems like it's Romney who's on the defensive.
There's no question about it, and every day that goes by, Michael, where the media, and I'm talking about most of the media, and the political community is focused on these kinds of questions about what Mitt Romney did when with Bain, is one day that that same media establishment is not talking about the rather dismal state of the economy. So on that basis alone, it's a win tactically for the president. And I also think there are other streams of documents and information that may be coming forth that may tell yet another picture of what Mitt Romney was doing between 1999 and 2002. The problem that Mitt Romney has is that his identity seemed to change depending on which document he was filling out. Whether it's an SEC form or something else. Don't forget, at the time, there were also questions about, later on in 2002 when he ran for governor of Massachusetts, there were questions about whether he was a legal resident in Massachusetts. And actually, at that time, he had an interest in talking about how much he was in Massachusetts and how involved he was in businesses in Massachusetts. So I would watch for that as the next turn of the wheel in this story.
And Joan, I guess to state the obvious, a reason why this is significant is that the Romney campaign would like to establish a definite end date so that Bain activities that came thereafter are not subject to criticism in the campaign context. KB Toys, as a matter of fact, is one of those that will often become campaign fodder, and the question becomes, well, did Mitt Romney have anything to do with it, or was he already now managing the Olympics?
Exactly. But, I think Bain is going to wind up having to answer some questions here too, Michael, because really the question is, what are they representing to the SEC? What are they representing to their clients? We all know that in investment companies, it really matters who the CEO is, who's making the decisions. How is Mitt Romney's name and role being used in outreach to clients? There are a lot of corporate questions on the corporate side, I would think, in terms of how you represent yourself to the SEC. And then there are big questions for Mitt Romney on the political side. So this story, that every day, the new sets of information that they bring out about it, they aren't helping themselves, so it's not going away.
What's interesting to me is that the Romney campaign has drawn some modicum of support from the fact-checking community. I'm referring by way of example to the fact that the Washington Post, although in the news pages, came out with that very important outsourcing story, which the Romney campaign objected to, wanted a retraction, and did not get it. And yet it's the same Post shortly there before that gave 4 Pinocchios to an Obama campaign ad that raised this whole issue. And yet still they haven't been able to turn this issue around, they meaning the Romney campaign. Howard, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do understand what you're saying, and I think it's largely for the reason that Joan pointed out, is that in their effort to nail that down, they have made some assertions about what Mitt Romney was doing between 1999 and 2002 that are open to question. So in an effort to shut down one part of the story, they rather stupidly opened up a whole other one that they probably didn't need to do. If they just stuck with jamming the Washington Post's own fact-checking and review devices back at the Washington Post, they may have had a better time with this story. But by the way, I think in addition to changing the subject, the strategy here for the Obama campaign is also ultimately to get back to taxes, I think. What they really want to do is say, look, what was Mitt Romney up to when? What business deals was he doing when? We need to see more of his tax returns. That's the other part of this that they're pressing on. They're trying to create the idea that Mitt Romney is a guy with a lot to hide about his business life, which again is part of the larger narrative that they're pushing, that Mitt Romney can't be trusted because he won't tell us what he did with his business and with his fortune.
Almost swift boating of sorts, meaning go after the asset that you perceive your opponent to have. Howard Fineman, thank you very much. Joan Walsh, we appreciate it as always. Coming up, the investigation